Ellis B. Feaster's Radio Aircheck and Classic TV channel.
The weather for Boston and vicinity for the rest of tonight, clear and cool. The low temperatures will be in the 40s in the suburbs, near 50 here in the city. On Saturday, sunny, the high 65 to 70 degrees with northerly winds around 10 miles an hour. Saturday night, clear, continued cool. The lows will be in the 40s for the suburbs, near 50 in the city. On Sunday, sunny, the high temperatures around 70 degrees. Right now in Boston, it's 50 degrees. And that's the 11 o'clock WBZ report with portions recorded. I'm Maurice Lewis for WBZ News. We now present a WBZ editorial by our General Manager, Cy Yanoff.
In recent months, a new villain seems to have appeared on the public welfare scene. The recipients, of course, have always been under attack. But more and more of the public and official fire now seems to be aimed at social workers. They're charged with being sloppy in the administration of the massive welfare program. And it's said they're too interested in getting more and more for their clients at the taxpayer's expense. We think it's highly unfair to blame social workers for the many administrative and financial ills of the welfare program. But these two charges raise a basic point about the nature of the welfare mess and its solution. With the maze of different welfare categories, budgets, and regulations, it's no easy job deciding who should get what. It's right and proper for social workers to get their clients all they're entitled to under the law. Beyond that, however, it's time we face the fact that social work and business administration are two entirely separate skills. There's no reason to expect people to be expert in both, and it's a vast waste of our social workers' time to have them doing the paperwork involved in checking clients' finances. All this is one more reason why we should scrap the present welfare system. Let's separate income maintenance from social work. Many people on welfare, especially the aged and the disabled, simply need financial help. So let's start providing it on a dignified and adequate basis. That means a national guaranteed income program using our tax structure. It can be used to give to some in the same simple way it takes from others. Once income maintenance is handled this way, then social services for those who need other help can be handled separately, also on a dignified and more adequate basis. In essence, let's not make our social workers into the villains of the welfare scene. Let's free them to do what they're educated and trained to do.
That's how WBZ sees it, and we recognize our obligation to broadcast opinions that don't agree with ours. At 8 minutes now, past 11, it's back to the final portion of tonight's Jerry Williams program.
254-5678.
Hello, America. This is Jerry Williams. Welcome back here on WBZ to the fourth and final hour. And the final hour of this sensational week celebrating WBZ's 50th anniversary. It has been a sensational week, and we're going to wind it up, we hope, tonight in this last hour with some equally sensational broadcasting. And we'll meet in just a moment Charles Correll of the famous Amos and Andy team. Stand by here on WBZ as we meet him in just a moment. Patriots fans, avoid expensive parking and ride in comfort to the league-leading Patriots game with the Detroit Lions this Sunday. The Plantation Beef Steakhouse Braintree has a very exciting offer. Take a bus from the Plantation at the South Shore Plaza. Avoid the traffic hassle. The price an incredibly low $6. And in addition to the bus ride, you will receive $5 worth of food and or beverages at the Plantation after the game. Enjoy really delicious gourmet dining in the evening, or join the fun in the Plantation Swing and Lounge, which features continuous entertainment. But call now to make your reservations because space is limited. 848-4120. Special Plantation buses to every Patriots game. Food, fun, and entertainment afterwards. Call 848-4120.
WBZ. Boy, when the kids lived at home, did my wife bake pies. Lots of filling, flaky crust, and I'd get all I wanted. Now all I get is excuses for her pie, or no pie at all. It's the Red Cross, the neighborhood committee, or she's taking the grandchildren to the zoo. Oh, I don't mind, but...
Sir, if we had as much to do with table talk as your wife does in a day, we wouldn't bake such good pies either. But baking pies is all we do, all day. Perfect, every time. Table talk. The kind of pies she'd bake if she had our kind of time.
And to listen, the man is just about to say it.
Yeah, let's everybody listen. Rinso, the new Rinso with Solium, brings you the Amos and Andy Show. Rinso, the soap that contains solium, the sunlight ingredient, brings you a full half hour of entertainment with the Jubilaires, Jeff Alexander's orchestra and chorus, and radio's all-time favorites, Amos and Andy.
Well, Freeman Gosden and Charles Correll met in 1919, formed a vaudeville team. They were doing an act called Sam and Henry, as Ben Gross pointed out to us earlier. They brought Sam and Henry to Chicago radio in 1926 to WGN, and then in 1928 changed the act's name to Amos and Andy because GN owned the name, so to speak, as Sam and Henry. Under the new name, the show, which had only been moderately successful, became an immediate hit, and in August of 1929 it went on the NBC network under the sponsorship of Pepsodent. Now, in the early days, Freeman Gosden and Charles Correll played all the roles on the program, but later on, other actors were added. The tremendous and enduring popularity of Amos and Andy was well-deserved, for the programs had real warmth and wit, and in such characters as the Kingfish and Madam Queen, it presented some of the few truly original creations of radio comedy. And in that feverish autumn of 1929, the strains of A Perfect Song every weekday evening announced Amos and Andy, and millions of listeners settled down for much-needed laughs during those days. Expressions such as eyes regusted and check and double check made their way into the speech of the nation, and the trials and tribulations of Andy and the Kingfish became popular topics of conversation. People couldn't be seen on the streets during that hour. Movie shows used to broadcast the program. It was fantastic. It was one of the great radio programs of all time. And with us tonight, we're pleased to have Charles Correll. How are you?
Hiya, Jerry.
Good to talk to you. How are you feeling?
Fine. Just great.
Did you hear?
Congratulations on your 50th anniversary.
Thank you very much.
You're darn near as old as I am.
A little while ago, Ben Gross told us that the first show was called Sam and Henry, and it was on WGN in Chicago. Is that right?
That's right.
And did you had to leave the name there because GN owned the name?
What is that again?
I said, did WGN own the name? You had to leave Sam and Henry?
Yes, they owned the name.
Right. And then who thought up the name Amos and Andy?
Who did? We did. I don't know how we did it, but we did. We were very lucky to think of that.
It was certainly a name that captured everyone.
Yeah, well, you say Amos and Andy. We thought if ever we were on a program and they ran alphabetically, we had to be number one, AAA.
And how long did it emanate from Chicago?
About 3 or 4 or 5 years, I guess.
And from there, where did Amos and Andy go?
Well, we went around. We were playing theaters and one thing or the other. We would be in New York a while, being in lots of towns. We were in Boston 2 or 3 times. That was way back.
But basically, the program began to emanate from New York City?
What's that?
I said, did the program begin to emanate from New York City?
Only for a while. Only while we'd be in there and we'd be playing in the neighborhood, you know.
Uh-huh.
And we'd live in New York. But most of the time it was from Chicago.
Did you ever realize how big that program would be?
No, I should say not. We were very lucky. Very, very lucky.
How long did Amos and Andy continue on the air?
32 years.
Wow, that must be an all-time record for anything in the communications.
Well, it's not, I don't know if it's an all-time, but it's a pretty good record, though.
And
we were very lucky to have people stick with us that long.
Of all the people we talked to all of this week who recall Amos and Andy, they all recall the story about nobody being on the streets at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is that the way it was, Mr. Correll?
Yeah, we had some very funny statistics about things that happened to us in our show.
Yeah, how was it?
We couldn't believe them, half of them. But it was true. There was a lot of crazy things happened to us.
Yeah, what were some of those crazy things?
Well, for example, when George Bernard Shaw was in America, they asked him what in America struck him the most, and he said 3 things: the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls, and Amos and Andy. Now that was pretty good advertising, wasn't it?
It comes from a great man, George Bernard Shaw.
I should say so.
But was it true that nobody could be seen on the streets when Amos and Andy was on?
Well, they told us that telephone service and everything was very low at that time. That was back in 1932, 1931 in there.
Was that the heyday of the program, the
Yeah, we did pretty well, clear up to the finish, which was 1961.
Uh-huh. Well,
we retired in 61.
Was Pepsodent the first sponsor?
What's that?
Was Pepsodent the first sponsor?
Yeah, that's right. We started with the Pepsodent Company in 29.
And how long did they stay with you?
Until 38.
That's a pretty long one sponsor kind of program.
That's right. And then we went to work for the Camel Soup Company, and we were with them for about 2 years.
And Rinso, of course, came in later days.
What?
I say Rinso came in later days.
No, let me see. Rinso started in 43. And that's when we started to do a half-hour show. We were doing daily shows before.
You originally did all the characters, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
How many characters used to pop up in one 15-minute episode?
Well, there was one time when Ripley, believe it or not, Ripley, in his cartoon, he had in there that we did some 238 characters.
I can't recall all the characters.
I can't either.
I do recall, of course, the Kingfish and Madam Queen. Maybe you could recall some of the other characters for us that were on the program.
We had Henry Van Porter, who was supposed to be a society fella, and the landlord who was Andy's landlord, and Lightning, and a fellow named Gwendell. That we did all those, and those were the regular characters.
Right.
And whenever there was another character in the thing, either one or the other would do it too, like a mailman or a judge or a lawyer or a clerk at the grocery store or anything like that. They were very minor parts, but they were just the same we did them until we got into the half-hour show, and then we got somebody to do them for us.
Of course, you played Andy.
Huh?
You played Andy?
Yeah.
And who else?
And Henry Van Porter.
Uh-huh.
And also the landlord, Andy's landlord.
Right.
I forgot what his name was now.
And your partner, Freeman Gosden, played...
What's that?
Your partner, which characters did he play?
He played Amos and the Kingfish and Lightning.
He was a very talented man.
Sure was. And still is. He's quite a character, that guy.
And, Mr. Correll, what are you doing these days?
I'm a professional bum, professional loafer. I don't do anything. I just lay around and have some fun.
Uh-huh.
I travel around quite a bit.
I see. When you travel, you're just traveling to see the world? Is that the idea?
Yeah, my wife and I travel around here and there now and then. In fact, we're figuring on going to Chicago maybe not too long from now.
Uh-huh.
Middle of October.
Yeah, I don't want to be too personal, but how old are you now?
Well, you'd never guess. I've hit the 8s,
You've hit the 8s?
I've hit the 8s.
Oh, I really didn't think. I thought you were in
this. It's a great life. It's a brand new life, Did you read the story of some fellow wrote about the wonders of being 80?
No, I haven't read that book.
Well, he said a lot of things that are very true. When you're 75, everybody expects you to be fast and run around here and there and not make a mistake or anything. But once you get to be 80, everybody wants to help you cross the street, and they want to...
Art Linkletter said...
If when you're 80, if you shave only one side of your face, nobody cares, or wear 2 different shoes,
Right.
Nobody cares.
Art Linkletter sent his very best regards to you. We spoke to him the other night.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's a great friend of mine.
Yeah, Milton Berle was here, too, and Milton indicated how much he enjoyed listening to those great days.
Yeah, well, I know Milt pretty well, but Art is a very good pal of mine. We run around quite a bit together.
Is that right?
Yeah, we've traveled quite a bit together. His wife and my wife look exactly alike.
Is that a fact?
Yep. You see them together, you can hardly tell them apart.
Could you have begun a program like Amos and Andy today when everybody is so sensitive about, minority groups and...
I don't think so, no.
No.
It's one of those race things,
Yeah, there was a bit of flack about the program in the 50s and 60s, wasn't there, when it was on television?
Yeah, well, when we started television, that's when the NAACP objected, a little bit.
Right.
And it wasn't too... I used to get into a fight with anybody. But I thought it was kind of crazy because we never did anything to hurt the colored race or anything. We just kidded normal life, and we had everybody laughing and crying with Amos and Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they did, we had them laughing at them or crying with them.
Were there any objections in the 30s?
What's that?
Were there any objections to the program in the 30s?
No, not particularly, as I can remember. They were great friends of ours, great fans. All of the colored people were great fans of ours.
Do you recall in those days which series, or which predicament that Amos and Andy got into that generated a great deal of interest?
Well, Andy always had a lot of interest created when he got into trouble with his girlfriend, Madam Queen. He married her a couple of times, you know, and he got into a lawsuit and all that kind of thing. That was pretty interesting to everybody.
What kind of mail did you used to receive in those days?
Well, we got an awful lot of mail.
Yeah.
Awful lot.
Did they really think there was an Amos and Andy? Did people write to Amos or to Andy, to the Kingfish?
What's that again?
I said, did people really think the characters were real?
Oh, I didn't hear you.
I say, did people really think that the characters, Amos and Andy, were real characters?
Oh, did we think so?
Yeah, not you, but did people?
Well, I always talked about Andy as a, not that I did him, I talked about him as a fellow all the time, as a person I probably knew.
And when people referred to them by mail through, did they actually write to Amos and write to Andy?
Oh, sure. And on the air, if we get in trouble, I mean, like Andy one time I remember he didn't have a pencil. And I think within a week we must have had 10,000 pencils.
Is that a fact?
Yeah, that's how crazy. And we talked about the typewriter. I had a broken down typewriter, and the fellow sent us a typewriter, the craziest thing you ever saw. That typewriter right today is in the Smithsonian Institute in Chicago. They came and found it, they traced it to us, and we gave it to them, and they put it in there with the evolution of typewriters. It was an old antique, worth a lot of money, you know.
Mr. Correll?
Yeah.
Who owns all of those Amos and Andy programs?
Who what?
Who owns them today?
CBS.
CBS owns them.
Yeah, we sold out to CBS, you know, in 44, I think it was.
I see. How many of those programs are still around and available to be heard?
I haven't the slightest idea. Our daily programs weren't recorded once we got on the network.
I understand.
Until we went into the half-hour show, they were recorded. And right now, my son is putting them all on tape so we can keep them. They were all on big 16-inch. I've forgotten what the name of the stuff is they put them on. You probably know.
Right. They're on tape, of course.
In fact, just before dinner tonight, I was sitting in his room and he was transferring one, and I was listening to it. Because way back, it was a show he did in 44, I think.
Did you prefer doing the 15 minutes every night or the 30-minute show once a week?
Well, I think we had a lot more fun with a 30-minute show. Although the 15-minute show was a lot of fun, too. In fact, everybody tells us, you know, about how much pleasure and how much fun we gave them. Well, they don't know how much fun we got out of this thing. We got a great time out of it ourselves, always.
Mr. Correll, who was on before Amos and Andy, just preceding you on the air?
In the early days, Lowell Thomas was on just before.
Oh, yes, right. And after you?
Huh?
And following you?
I think was Lanny Ross.
Well, they both got big. Of course, Lowell Thomas built up your audience. And
Lowell Thomas is going strong, yes.
Yeah, he's still around. That's right.
He sure is, and he has great programs.
Right, he's still...
He writes great stuff.
He's still my favorite newscaster. And then Lanny Ross used to follow you and inherit that big audience.
Yeah, he's around you. I see him when I go back east.
Uh-huh.
But I probably won't get back east much anymore. I had a daughter who lived in New York, or in Connecticut, and I had to go back about twice a year. I wanted to see her, but they moved back home here, so I don't know when I'll get back to the east.
Well, it's certainly most exciting to hear you. You know, Amos and Andy, was Amos and Andy heard on this station? I guess it was, on WBZ?
I don't know. I don't remember, but I've got a list of all the stations someplace around.
Uh-huh. Was NBC or CBS originally?
Both.
It was NBC originally, right?
NBC, you see, for about 9 years. Let me see. We started with Camel in 38, and we went to CBS. I've forgotten exactly the date. That's so long back. In 43, I think.
Well, WBZ was an NBC station at that time.
And we were on CBS from then on until we retired.
Mr. Correll, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your helping us celebrate.
You're very welcome, and I'm very flattered to have you call me.
It is our pleasure. We wish you long life and good health.
Thank you, and tell everybody around there I wish them a very successful 50th anniversary.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Now, a piece from Amos and Andy, perhaps you'll remember.
What do you want to see me about, Kingfish?
Brother Andy, I was working for an insurance company. Now, tell me this. What is your burial plan?
Excuse me for protruding, but what is that again?
Brother Andy, I got a burial policy here that takes care of all the arrangements for the departed at the time of sorrow. Coffin, flowers, 2 coaches, and many other things that you will enjoy.
Just to recall those days, I didn't want to be too presumptuous with Mr. Correll, being in his 80s, to have him try to simulate one of those great voices of that period. But Amos and Andy was probably the biggest radio program, and a daily radio program of all of those golden days. Last year, TWA made a bold move in Boston. In a year when other airlines were cutting back, TWA introduced a major new service, Ambassador Service, a whole new way to fly across the United States. We rebuilt the interiors of our planes, gave you better seats, better food, better baggage service. New carpets, new colors, new everything. In less than 6 months, TWA's Ambassador Service out of Boston has become a huge success. So now TWA does it again. TWA introduces twin-seat flights. Twin-seat flights are for shorter routes out of Boston, but they still give you the same rebuilt planes as Ambassador Service with new seats, new carpets, new colors, new everything. Next time you're flying out of Boston, take a TWA Ambassador flight or a TWA twin-seat flight. Nobody else gives you anything like it. TWA gives you Ambassador flights to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, and Las Vegas, and TWA now offers 4 twin-seat flights to Chicago every business day. Call TWA or your travel agent.
This is WBZ's Larry Justice. Got a youngster 3.5 to 5 years old. Somerville and Malden have Head Start and daycare programs that are free. They're recruiting right now for September. BZ urges you to call 623-8350 for more information.
Dear son, your letter arrived today requesting additional funds. This request gives me the opportunity to comment on your spelling and the legibility of your writing. Now, first off, I think
Do you know someone on campus who needs a dictionary and typewriter? Then don't miss Jordan's special sale of famous Underwood Ventura portables at $49.89, complete with handsome carrying case and 5-year manufacturer's guarantee. The Underwood Ventura portable, only $49.89. Save as well on American Heritage dictionaries, 1,600 pages of large, readable type with illustrations, maps, world histories. They're now $6.71 to $11.25. 2 great back-to-campus specials from Jordan Marsh.
I guess that's all the news for now. I love, Dad. P.S. I understand typing term papers pays well.
WBZ, the spirit of 103. WBZ, Boston.
The Spirit of New England, WBZ, and WBZ FM Boston Group W Westinghouse Broadcasting. This is Jerry Williams on our 50th anniversary, final night of this great celebration all of this week. We're certainly happy to have you aboard.
Flair right smooth.
Flair is tough.
Flair, 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 Flair. Ooh, Flair right smooth.
Flair is tough.
Flair, Flair, Flair.
Get into show business with Flair, the pen that shows exactly how you feel. Because Flair comes filled with more than ink. Flair comes filled with love, joy, happiness, fun. Old-fashioned pens write words. Flair writes feelings. Flair, now playing at your favorite store with a cast of 12 emotionally involved colors.
Ooh, Flair right smooth.
Flair is tough.
Flair, Flair, Flair. With the smooth,
tough,
nylon point. It's the only way to write. Flair, Flair, Flair.
It's been a fantastic week. Let me indicate to you that Kenny Meyer spent most of his waking and sleeping hours obtaining the services of all of these people this week Jerry Colonna, Jimmy Wallington, Don Wilson, Rudy Valley, Red Barber, Bill Stern, Herb Morrison, who described the Hindenburg air disaster, Superman's announcing Jackson Beck, Hal Perry, the Great Gildersleeve, Jack McCarthy, the Green Hornet, Santos Ortega, who played Nero Wolfe, and a flock of other characters, Buffalo Bob Smith, Art Linkletter, Howard K. Smith, Minerva Pius, who is Mrs. Nussbaum, Bob Hope, Gail Gordon, Harry Von Zell, Julie Stevens, who played Helen Trent. There was counter-spy Don McLaughlin, Miss Higbee, who played When a Girl Marries, Archie Andrews, Jay Jostin, Mel Blanc, Vaughn Monroe, Milton Berle. Well, all of these people, all their services were obtained by Kenny Meyer, who produced this week's program. Now, before we do that, Streeter Stewart is going to interview Athur Fiedler, one of the early starters in Boston radio as well as Streeter.
Athur Fiedler is probably more than any other person has brought New Englanders and the rest of the nation to the kind of music that was long-haired enough to be real music and short-haired enough to be thoroughly enjoyable. Arthur, this is the 50th anniversary of WBZ, and you've played a big part in some of the finest programs ever broadcast on this station.
Well, thank you very much. My first word would be to congratulate WBZ on their 50th anniversary, and as you have just mentioned, I think I partook of many concert broadcasts from there.
You certainly did, and I was very proud to have been privileged to work with you on some of them. I know you remember Sunday at 4:30.
Oh, yes, that was a real fine program, and was sadly missed when it was stopped after, I think we went 3 or 4 years.
Yes, and it drew a packed house every Sunday afternoon at the old Boston Opera House.
Yes, it was run by the First National Bank, and they had very good results, and they told me that people would stand in line on Monday morning at the various branches of their bank requesting tickets for the performance.
I know that some people who knew that I was connected with it would try to get tickets, and of course, when the house was full, nobody could get them anymore.
Yeah, and it was full all the time, that's for sure. That was in the beautiful opera house that, alas, is no longer here, and it was a sad mistake that they ever tore that down.
Yes, I agree with you. As I recall it, Roger Voisin was your first trumpeter. Is he still with you?
Of course, yes.
Who were some of the other musicians you remember from those days?
Well, I don't remember what the year was, but we have most of our men have had a long stay here, and there are many people that have been with the orchestra close to 45, 50 years. It happens to be my 58th year with the Boston Symphony.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Well, I congratulate you too, Arthur, on that.
I didn't mean that.
Oh, but it's marvelous to think that you have contributed so much to the enjoyment of life through music.
Thank you. Didn't we continue those Sunday 4:30 from your station on the Charles River?
Oh, yes, yes.
We did, yes.
I can remember the popularity of some of the tunes you used to play. I remember Trumpeter's Lullaby and
sure.
Bon Fry. What were some of the other numbers? Do you recall?
I can't recall. I mean, you used so much of repertoire, I don't remember.
I know the Warsaw Concerto was one, and you used to have various soloists who would come in and play the piano. One of them was Leo Litwin.
Yes, surely. He's still with me.
Isn't that marvelous? Yeah. Now, among the guest personalities, you remember that the first half of the program was on AM, and then there was an intermission, and then the second half was on FM. And you had guests in between.
Well, I know what I actually did was I was working very hard at that time, and it was a difficult program to do. And I think the second section I invited some of my colleagues to conduct.
Right.
So I would do the first section, they would do the second section, which I didn't know I thought it was not on radio at all, or maybe on FM, which was pretty green at that time.
You're right about that.
And didn't we go afterwards to the, what was the hotel there we also gave to?
You don't mean the Hotel Bradford?
Yeah.
That's where oh, yes, I can recall you doing the programs from there, and I did the announcing there, too.
Yes.
Jack Wright was the producer,
right.
And I understand that Jack Wright is now living in either the Canary Islands...
He's living in the Canaries because I was there, and I had to stop over the plane for a few hours, and I tried my darndest to find him, but I couldn't find him. But he's living there enjoying it very much.
Oh, that's marvelous.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall it or not, but one Sunday, Bob Hope was there at the Boston Opera House. And I don't know if you remember how he tried to embarrass me. He tried to make people, all that audience, and what did it hold, 2,000 people?
Oh, more, I would say.
3,000 maybe.
Over 3, I would say. Yes.
Over 3,000. Well, in front of all those people, Bob Hope pretended that I was asking him how to get to the men's room. And you know how he could do a thing like that.
Yeah.
And it really was something. And they told me that my face got terribly red. And he was making all kinds of these funny gestures and so on. There must have been many other humorous incidents in connection with that long and successful series.
Yeah, but don't ask me. I never can remember what I want to remember at the right time.
Well, I'm the same way. I think that's very normal.
I'll probably wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, why didn't I tell them that story? No, those concerts went very well, and everyone was very happy, the musicians and the bank and myself.
Oh, I know that everyone was pleased with that series of programs. Was it in the 1812 overture that you used the big sheets of iron or sheet metal?
No, that was a composition by a Russian composer called Mosolov.
And I know that they banged on those to make the sound of, what was it, cannon fire?
It was supposed to be a foundry or a steel foundry or something like that. And with the sound of the orchestra, they mixed this terrifically big steel piece of steel that was rattled from the ceiling. You see?
Yes, it was very effective.
And then the horns seemed to impersonate the workers, and when they played, they had to stand up and play. You know.
I remember you used to do a medley of tunes from the current commercials. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And that was very enjoyable.
Well, we've done that many times, and I've had many requests to do it again, but these things are rather costly to have orchestrated and arranged, and it takes a lot of permissions from all these people that are the sponsors. And furthermore, the jingles have changed a great deal, you know.
Oh, yes.
I mean, some people remember those, but I mean, if you try to get a collection of jingles together that are national, you can't just depend upon Boston. If you go to the trouble of doing that for radio or for television, it has to be national. And they change so frequently that it's money just gone with the wind.
Arthur, you remember the program director, Gordon Swan, don't you?
Of course.
I came in one day in a new sports shirt that I was very proud of, and he brought me into his office and gave me a nice little lecture on how I should dress more dignified and not wear a sports shirt. And after I came out from his office, I passed those big windows down on the 5th floor of the Hotel Bradford, those giant studios, and you had the orchestra in there, you were rehearsing them, and you were in a sweatshirt and you had a big Turkish towel around your neck.
Yeah, well, of course we were not singing. We were just
right, exactly.
I don't think it mattered. There was no audience there.
That's right, exactly.
I mean, that's different than the bank program, because that was, of course, with audience.
Oh, yes, and everybody was dressed fit to kill then, I know that. Musical tastes have changed a lot, Arthur, since those days.
Well, you know, the taste of music, especially the popular music, goes through various phases at different years. I mean, one time it used to be the cakewalk and the rags and the jitterbug, and now it's rock and roll, and it's all sorts of things, and soul music and largely psychedelic music and so forth. So these things come and go as if you reach my age, you've gone through much of it, you see.
Well, Arthur, do you think the development toward present-day music is an improvement or just a change?
I think in some cases it's an improvement, in some cases just a change. I would say they're both. And, of course, not everything that is written is first-rate by any manner. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that there is some rock and roll that I really enjoy, and there's a lot of it that I don't enjoy. The same goes for the Beatle music, and the same goes for classical music. There's some classical music that I think is extremely dull.
What about the content of the lyrics? I know you're more interested in the music than the lyrics, but how do they compare today with the lyrics of songs in the 40s?
Well, they seem to be more or less, they're not so romantic as they are. They tell a story. I mean, what do you call that type of music?
I guess that's a ballad.
A ballad, yes. They're more ballad type. I mean, they're describing the troubles of the day and the draft in Vietnam and all sorts of things. Those things did not exist formerly, except during wartime, and there was a bevy of war songs that came out, of course.
Arthur, didn't you do a short stint as a disc jockey once? Just on a...
I did in New York for CBS, yes. I used to be on 2 or 3 times a week, and I'd go to New York and do the show from there. I would have a an hour with Athur Fiedler or something. It was called like that. And there was a lot of work to do that, to plan the programs, to talk about each piece.
I know you've done an awful lot of recording. What do you see ahead? Mostly playing 4 recorded programs on cassette, or do you think there's always going to be a future for live programming?
Oh, I think there'll always be live music, because I don't care how, we certainly have wonderful reproduction today, and no matter how true to life it sounds, it isn't the real McCoy at all. It's like drinking near beer, or if I may say, like kissing your own wife.
Arthur.
You better cut that out.
Yes.
Clip that, will you?
Will such prestige programs as Sunday at 4:30 ever be heard live again on radio, say?
Well, I don't know. It cost them a considerable amount of money. It would cost much more today. I did a series for the Boston Globe, the Sunday Globe. We had a series about 6, you know. They were very similar to that. And but there are not many people that spend money that way today.
Well, Arthur, it's been wonderful talking with you. I wonder if you have anything that you yourself would like to mention that I haven't asked you about.
No, I won't. But the usual question is that I usually get, now I'll answer it myself, is what are your plans of retiring? And I'll answer that I'm not thinking of retiring at all.
Good for you.
I should, perhaps, but as long as the audiences accept me, and as long as I'm physically able to do it, I like to do what I'm doing, and I get a great kick out of it, and I shall do it until I'm incapacitated.
Well, we all love you, we admire you, and we hope you'll just keep going on as long as you can.
Well, in closing, I would like to say that my association with WBZ has always been most pleasant, and people have been most cooperative, and have always backed me up in doing broadcasts that were the best possible.
Thank you, Arthur, for talking with me.
Nice talk to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Streeter Stewart and Athur Fiedler, for helping us celebrate WBZ's 50th anniversary. And in a moment, we'll meet Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding, Bob and Ray.
Less than a day away, on the other side of the world, lies Australia. Australia with its golden beaches, sky-climbing cities, improbable creatures like the platypus. And you, will you see the wonders down under? Fly Qantas. Fly and drive Australia on a tour that treats you better all around. From California, it starts at $795 for your jet economy round trip, an Avis car for 14 days, and 14 nights at some of Australia's best motor inns. See your travel agent and fly Qantas.
Fly Qantas. Qantas treats you better all around. Qantas treats you better all around. Fly and drive away today on a Qantas holiday. Qantas treats you better all around.
Where Larry Glick's at.
The following brought to you by the Boston Globe.
Mayor White versus Congresswoman Louise Day Hicks. Who will win the race for mayor of Boston? This weekend in the Boston Sunday Globe, you'll find the results of a poll of the citizens of Boston on their choice for mayor in the November election. Don't miss seeing how the voters of Boston feel about this important race. Also this Sunday in the Globe magazine, you can participate in a unique survey on the survival of the arts. And to help you make plans for next weekend's Boston Globe New England Book Festival, you'll find a special book festival section. Art Buchwald, William Buckley, Isaac Asimov, and Senator Mike Gravel head the list of more than a score of authors who'll be appearing next weekend at the festival. See all of the program in the special book festival section of Sunday's Globe. The Race for Mayor, Survival of Arts in Boston, New England Book Festival section. You'll find them all in this Sunday's Boston Globe, where you'll also find a colorful poster of 1971 football star Greg Landry of the Detroit Lions. To have the Globe at your doorstep every day, dial 288-8000 and ask for home delivery.
This is Jerry Williams on WBZ's 50th anniversary. It all began September 20th, 1971. With us, two young men who made a great contribution in the 50s, and perhaps before that, as far as I know, Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding, who were back in the early days of radio here on WHDH. Is that right, Bob and Ray?
Yeah, that's right.
What year? On WHDH at that time? Yeah, what time of day were you on?
We're on in the morning. Early morning. And then before that, before the war, I was at WEI for a while, and Bob was at, WHDH? Yeah.
Were you doing the same thing?
No, just doing, straight announcing duties.
Why are you laughing about the straight announcing duties?
They weren't very straight, no.
In those days, when everything was very formal, though, how could you get away with that sort of thing?
Well, I don't know. That's a mystery, I guess. I really don't... There's some kind of a breakthrough. Yeah. Say, now that we have you people on the air, when did you ever get rid of the BZA?
Oh, come on now. You're telling your age. You're not reading broadcasting. That happened last week.
Gosh.
No,
what did you ever do to those studios in the Hotel Kimball in Springfield?
The Hotel Kimball in Springfield has now been leveled. It is a permanent Democratic convention. That's what happened to the hotel in Springfield.
Well, we have a lot of memories of BZ. We were talking about some of the old guys this afternoon. And do you remember the time they had a lion from the circus up for an interview, and it got loose?
No, I don't remember that. I've been in Boston since '57 through '65 and over to Chicago and back. So,
yeah.
What year was that?
Oh, this was way back. I think in maybe the late '30s. I remember. You remember that, Ray?
Yeah, sure.
Was it the MGM lion?
No, it was one with a circus, I guess, and they had some kind of a publicity thing, and they got him up to the Bradford, and he didn't like it.
And what happened?
Oh, he jumped through a window, as I remember. They got him. I guess he was fairly tame.
Actually, Bob and Ray, how long were you in Boston?
As a team, we were 5 years as a excuse me, 5 years as a team.
On HDH?
Yeah. Well, we're both natives, from around Boston.
Right.
And
Where
we
do you?
both worked at radio stations in that, in the area.
Yeah. Ray, where did you come from?
I came from Lowell.
And Bob?
I grew up in Winchester.
Both country boys.
Yeah, right.
For people who call me from Lowell, I always indicate that everybody has to live somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Winchester still has the aura of wealth about it, except for Frankie Fontaine.
Yeah, it's grown. I haven't been there too recently, but the last time it about doubled what it was when I was last there.
What happened to that HDH morning program? How successful was it? Were you doing the same thing that you're doing now, or in radio generally in the 50s and 60s?
Well, I tell you, we had what's the fellow's name that does the morning show on WBZ?
Now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, now. He's been doing it forever. What are you talking about?
I know, I can't think of his name, though.
Carl DeSouza. Yes.
Well, he was on the same time we were, and that goes way back.
Uh-huh.
And I forget who was on WEI.
Well, undoubtedly, he must have beat you in the ratings because Carl has been #1 all these years.
Chased us out.
Yeah.
Did people not like it in the morning, or were you not?
No, they liked it, and
Yep.
the station liked it, and that's when they decided to extend it into an afternoon show as well, which is on just before the ball games.
No, we left to join NBC in 1951.
When you were doing a morning show, and you had to do 3 or 4 hours every morning, how could you come up with all the material that was necessary? Or didn't you?
We're just superhuman is the way I look at it.
I recall one interview, I'm not sure it was on record or not, but it was a thing whereby one of you had to interview somebody in your studio audience. And perhaps you know the punchline, the question was, sir, where are you from? And he said something like Lowell, Massachusetts. What's the most exciting thing that ever happened to you? He said, well, I was once run over by a train.
That's right, I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the question to follow that up to the fellow in the audience was, how does it feel to be run over by a train? Hello?
Yeah.
And do you remember the answer to that?
No.
He says, well, it's sort of like having a train run over you. Right.
That's right. Those guys are funny.
That's your material. That sort of material, are you doing that on stage now, Bob and Ray?
We're going to Princeton University with our show for a week in October, and then to Washington, D.C. for 3 weeks in December. That's, the two and only show that we ran on Broadway here.
Right. How does that transpose itself to the theater, knowing that...
We were quite happy the way it was transposed and the way it was received. It went over quite well, I think. And after we did nearly 6 months here, we went on the road for 2 months. Went out to the coast.
Were you nervous about that transition?
Yeah, we were quite concerned. But after we began a couple of times doing it front of an audience, we felt secure.
Well,
more secure.
it was the first time we ever had any live reaction, you know. When you're doing radio shows, as you know, you always figure somebody's listening, but you're never quite sure. And this was really a wonderful feeling to be on a stage and to get, you know, instant reaction from an audience. It was a luxury that we had never had before.
I might add that I was a great fan of Bob and Ray, and back in my days in Philadelphia, which were in the 50s, I was influenced by things that you had done. I worked at WIP in Philadelphia with a partner. His name is Harry Smith, and we did a two-man thing called the Gag Busters, by the way, named by one of the local columnists, and we did that sort of thing with a group of homegrown characters, and we were fairly big in Philadelphia until he found out I was getting more money than he was. That broke up the team.
Well,
and those things happen, right?
I guess they do.
Bob and Ray, are you doing any radio now in New York?
No.
None at all?
No, you know, we do a lot of commercial work, and no radio. We're on up in Canada. We've been on up in Canada now for how many years?
15 or 16.
Yeah.
In a syndicated program?
Yeah.
Do you prefer not doing radio now, or?
No, it's just that we have these other commitments, and we just can't tie ourselves down to a regular radio show every day or whatever. It's just, we couldn't, for instance, go to Washington for 3 weeks and do a radio show here in New York. It'd be impossible.
Who were some of the people in the business in the late 40s and 50s in Boston at that time?
Oh, well, let's see. Well, Arch McDonald at WBZ. And,
right.
And
Arch is now on Channel 56 on WKBG.
And what?
He's moved over to WKBG Channel 56.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That's the Kaiser.
Egan was there, I guess.
Yeah, and Streeter Stewart.
Streeter's still here.
Yeah. And let's see, who else?
Wally Ballou.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm trying to think. At WBZ now.
Not necessarily at WBZ. People in the business in Boston at that time.
Oh, in Boston?
Yes.
Well, like over at EEI, it was Ken Ovenden and let's see who else.
Carl Dickerman.
Yeah, Carlton Dickerman. And let's see, some of the other stations in town. Well, at WHDH, Fred Cole, and Fred Cole's an old WBZ man.
That's right.
And let's see who. And Richard Lewigan.
Well,
Kurt Gowdy, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Jim Britt.
Jim Britt. Isn't Jim Britt in Chicago now?
Is he? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
And Tom Huzzy, and that's about it.
Let me interrupt for just a moment. Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding, Bob and Ray, formerly of Boston, now, of course, doing a great two-man show around the country. This is Jerry Williams on WBZ's 50th anniversary. Stand by.
We're into your head with the best sound around. Come on down.
Once a year, speaker savings time is here at Allied Radio Shack. Now through the 25th, 25% off compact acoustic suspension speakers. 5-year guarantee, regularly $30. Now on sale for $22.50 each.
We're into your head with the best sound around. Come on down.
Save 25% on speakers at Allied Radio Shack this week.
Hi, I'm BZ's Guy Manila. Families, loners, and even dating couples enjoy Boston's Museum of Science. Open each day and Friday nights till 10. It's air-conditioned with free parking. Call 742-1410 for more information.
Bread is one of the foods most necessary in providing a completely nutritional diet.
When nutritional experts stress the importance of bread, remember, Nissin's Tender Crust bread supplies vitamins, iron, protein, nutrients essential to good health.
Food we eat most often, bread is one of our most important foods.
Think about it. Nissin's Tender Crust bread, one of your most important foods. For flavor, freshness, and good nutrition, buy Nissin's Tender Crust, the bread with all the good things baked in.
Now let's return to Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding. Bob and Ray. Which one of the characters, Bob and Ray, seem to come off as real to most of your audience?
Well, down through the years, they've all been modified and distilled and changed and altered and all. And but I guess Wally Ballou probably, The first one was Mary Magoon, which is the falsetto voice that I did.
Right, Mary Magoon's fantastic.
Yeah.
I would guess, anyway, that Mary Magoon, to many of your audience, might have come off as being a real person.
Probably so.
And they did to us, too.
Yeah.
And do, you know.
Yeah, is Mary Magoon there? Can I talk to her for just a moment?
Just for a few moments. Her voice goes very quickly on her these days.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, she's on in years.
I see. Mary, how old are you now?
That's no fit question to ask a lady.
Oh, I see. Are you selling anything special these days?
No, I'm still on the beer truck.
I didn't realize that you had done that.
Well, I just ride around with them now. Years ago, I used to help move the barrels. But I just ride. I know the route.
Well, naturally, if you knew the route, who else could learn it these days?
Right.
Particularly in New
Well,
York.
the youngsters just don't want to take the time to learn the beer route anymore.
That's the way kids are. They just simply don't want
They
to do
start right at the top.
Right. They don't like these kind of menial jobs. Is Wally Blue around, Wally?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Wally. Have you
Jerry.
interviewed any fascinating people recently?
Well, no, not too recently, but whatever I have, they've been pretty interesting, I find.
Wally, I've always wanted to ask you this question. Do you have an adenoidal problem?
No.
No, that's not he's never noticed it.
I always wondered about that, but it's just, it's not a sinus problem or something?
No problem at all for me.
I see. Are you on assignment these days, Wally?
Occasionally, yes.
Where are you headed?
Well, I don't know.
Ron
hope to do
Ziegler?
some political interviews when we go to Washington.
Oh, do you? Ron Ziegler and people like that?
Yeah.
He certainly is a fascinating guy. Have you been in the inner circle of Mr. Nixon's crowd? People, I mean?
But I talk to Sander Van Oker once in a while.
Oh, yes. How is Sander?
He's fine.
I understand he was, as they say in the trade, dumped.
He was what?
Dumped.
Oh. Yeah, I guess he was, as a matter of fact.
Uh-huh. Well, what's he doing, picking up time?
No, I think he's going to appear on another network.
I see. Well, it's good to talk to Wally Ballou. What other characters, Bob and Ray, so we can just recall them over the years? And did they develop?
We had Steve Bosco, a sportscaster.
Oh, yes.
And
Webley Webster.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He was one time president of the Canton Garden Club.
Right, and there was Mr. Trace, keener than most people, or most persons, or which one?
Yeah. See.
Were they developed in Boston?
Yeah.
All of them?
The Smoky Valley Boys.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we used to be on, in addition to the morning, we used to be on just before the Red Sox and the then Boston Braves, you know.
Oh, gee, I have that distinction. I follow the Boston Celtics and the Boston Bruins and the Boston Braves.
Yeah. And we used to do like a half-hour show before all the home games of the Red Sox and the Braves. And that's when we developed most of these characters, anyway.
And so it goes with Bob and Ray, celebrating our 50th anniversary here at WBZ. It's been a really exciting weekend. I want to let Kenny Meyer say a word or two before you leave. Kenny, thanks very much for all the hard work in obtaining all of the people involved.
Jerry, it's been fun. It really
Wait a minute.
has.
First, you see, when you get a chance to go on the air, they don't even put the right mic on. The only way you can get on the air is to be on the Glick show.
Can we go now? Is Joe got the right?
Yeah, we're all set now.
It's really been fun. I've had almost as much fun as you have contacting some of these people like Don Wilson and Bill Stern that you've heard about, and being able to finally talk with them in person. It's just been a great week, and I wish I could do it all over again.
Well, perhaps we'll do another week on it because we got a lot of good mail and got a lot of good reports, and perhaps we'll do it again in another week that we can just devote to nostalgia.
Well, if we do, I hope they'll let me produce it again for you. It's been
Thanks
fun.
very much, Kenny. Kenny Meyer did such a fantastic job in getting all these people to appear all during the week. I mentioned them a bit earlier, but Gail Gordon, Harry Von Zell, Bob Hope, Art Linkletter, Mel Blanc, Vaughn Monroe. Tonight, the local people, Bob and Ray, Robert Q. Lewis we had tonight, with the wonderful Mel Allen, Ben Gross, the Dean of the Radio Columnists, Charles Correll of Amos and Andy. It's been a fascinating week, and it, by the way, happens to be my birthday, too. See? Today is my birthday. Thank you very much, Kenny. And thanks to all the listeners who sent me cards and greetings. I appreciate that very much, and it's been a good day for me and a good week for me on BZ's. It's my 26th year, actually. I'm beginning my 27th year in broadcasting, and I've had a great time. Larry Glick will be next. He'll entertain you through the night, and we hope you'll join us next week. We have an exciting lineup of guests next week on our regular form. we'll get back to all the comment and controversy and getting deeply involved in the issues of the day. Thank you very much again. This is Jerry Williams. Good night, good luck, good morning, good night.
Trying to save money is like dieting. It's easy to start, but tough to stay with. Here at the First National Bank of Boston, we can't help you lose weight, but we can help you fatten up your savings through our automatic savings plan. Just tell us the amount you want to save. Once a month, we'll see to it that money is transferred from your checking account directly into savings. Automatic saving is downright habit-forming. Come see your friends at the First. For a little help when it's a matter of money, we're the first people to talk to.
Hi, this is Larry Glick, and I'll be zing you right after the news on Radio 103.
The Spirit of New England, WBZ, and WBZ...